And it's the Premier League, Week 5, September the 15th, Saturday. So the international break's over, thank goodness. What a bore. Spurs entertain Liverpool, still at Wembley, and we were anticipating a closely fought match. Wrong. Liverpool completely dominated the first half. Spurs, I don't know where they were, but we hardly saw their stars. Eriksen hardly touched the ball, and Kane was significant by his absence. Anyway, on 39, a mix-up in the defence. Wijnaldum's header, Vorm in for Lloris, tried to claw it away, but it had already gone over the line. Into the second half, and Firmino managed to get the second after Mane's cross was turned onto a post by Vertonghen. It spun out, and Firmino was gratefully on the goal line to receive it, and that was 2-0. Spurs really never got going. They put on Son and Lamela, and it was him who got a consolation on 93, turning the ball in from a tight angle. That was the only thing that Alisson did all afternoon. So at Liverpool, 5 wins out of 5. Spurs, few questions to answer for Pochettino. And then we went to the south coast, Bournemouth at home to Leicester. Bournemouth have had an impressive start, and it got even better for them. They were 3 up by half time. A brace for Fraser on 19 and 37, and a King penalty. The Leicester defence was all at sea. Schmeichel desperately trying to clear his lines, and Morgan ended up getting sent off for 2 yellows. Into the second half, Smith added a 4th on 81, and the Foxes got 2 consolation goals that flattered the scoreline. Over to Stamford Bridge. Cardiff, the videos. Cardiff were the visitors, and to be frank, nobody gave them a chance. And they surprised us all, because on 16, Bamba opened the scoring following in. However, Cardiff weren't prepared for one Eden Hazard. He basically took control of the match and scored a brace on 37 and 43, and then in the second half got his hat-trick from the penalty spot on 80. William completed the scoring with a great shot from outside the game. Sari, now saying Eden Hazard's the best in Europe, and I'm not going to disagree with him. 2, the John Smith Stadium, and Crystal Palace were in town. As is always the case with Huddersfield, it's a door spectacle. However, we did have Zaha's talents to look at, and what a classy act he is. Unfortunately, the Huddersfield defence didn't really want to look at it, so they kept on kicking him all over the park, and the referee was hardly protective. Eventually, Zaha got rather uppity and got a yellow card for his retaliation. But eventually, on 38, he reacted to a foul by knocking the ball past 2 defenders and smashing the ball home. Huddersfield pressed in the second half, but they're now 4th bottom. Lack of goals is their problem. They've had 24 goalless matches in their last 43. So to the Etihad, and it was Manchester City at home to high-flying Fulham. I thought this would be a bridge too far for the Cottagers, and I was right. City were up for it, and within 2 minutes, Leroy Sané collected a cross and pushed the ball into the corner, and City were 1 up. The 2 Silvers, David and Bernard, were performing their usual magic in front of Fernandinho, who was very much the general in charge of the midfield. Fulham had their moments, but they are naive defensively, and so Silva got his goal on 21, and Sterling added a third just after the break. Sane was praised by his manager Guardiola, and I would suggest that this young man, even if Germany don't want him, the Premier League does. He is a huge talent. So too the St James's Park, where Arsenal were the visitors. A really dour first half. Arsenal slightly got the edge. Into the second half, though, they turned that into goals. Xhaka scored from 49 from a long-range free kick, and Ozil got a nice goal on 58. It really ended as a contest then, although Newcastle did get a consolation from Clark on 91. The last game of the Saturday was at Vicarage Road, and Man U were the visitors. Man U coming from that good result against Burnley a fortnight back, and they continued where they left off. They were running the midfield, Pogba looking good, and Lukaku chested in a Young cross on 35. Young was in for Shaw, who's got an injury. And then Smalling doubled the lead by smashing in a Fellaini cross before the interval. Into the second half, and United took their foot off the throttle. A dangerous thing to do against Watford. Gray scored a goal on 65. Matic ended up red carded for a second yellow, and all of a sudden that good work was looking under threat. Thankfully, some great defensive work from all, including Lukaku, plus a couple of outstanding saves from De Gea and a strong performance from Fellaini in front of the back four, and United ended up winning it 2-1. Okay, that's Saturday's matches. We'll be back with another video on Sunday and Mondays. Sunday's games then, and there were two games on Sunday. The early kickoff was at Molineux. Wolves at home to Burnley. Now, Wolves have been a breath of fresh air, and they totally dominated this game. The season ticket holders must be looking forward to a great season. They got their goal on 61 minutes, but they had the vast majority of the possession, created lots of chances, and if it hadn't been for Joe Hart in Burnley's goal, the result would have been even more impressive. Nuno must be very satisfied with his team's performance. As for Burnley, they're now at the bottom of the league, and Dyche has got problems. They didn't seem to have a great deal of fight in them. Very little to say about them going forward. The second game was at Goodison Park. Everton, who had a good start, against West Ham, pointless. So it was somewhat surprising that West Ham set off like a house on fire. They were really looking good on the eyes. Arnautovic particularly strong up front, and it was no surprise when on 11 minutes the Ukrainian Yarmolenko managed to steer in the first goal, so that was West Ham 1 up. Well, the Ukrainian was on target again on 31 after Pickford fluffed his clearance, which set up the chance. And he hit a nice strike curling into the left corner of the goal. That's Pickford's right, by the way. So it was 2-0 at half time. As we approached half time, Everton got back into the game when Sigurdsson converted with a nice header. So it was 2-1 at the break. However, Pellegrini's team looked up for it, and on 61, Arnautovic restored the 2-goal buffer. From there on, really, Hammers looked good value for that lead, and Everton disappointing. I think that Marco Silva's got to sit down and think seriously. They look toothless up front, and I think they badly need Richarlison back. Okay, the Monday night game. I only saw brief highlights of this, but it looked like it was a cracker. Southampton and Brighton. Well, Southampton went 2 up thanks to Holsberg on 35 and a Danny Ings penalty on 65. But then Duffy got one back a couple of minutes later, and guess who? Glenn Murray came up with a penalty on 91 to get the point. That's the second consecutive game that Brighton have recovered to earn a point from 2 down. Southampton still only 1 win at home since November 2017. Okay, so that's about it. We've got Chelsea and Liverpool 5 wins, 15 points. City are on 3rd at 13, followed by Watford on 12. Next up are Bournemouth on 10, and the 3 big shots on 9. Spurs, Arsenal and Man U. At the bottom, it's Burnley and Newcastle on that solitary point. The goal of the week, I'm going to give it to Yarmolenko, his second against Everton. See you next week.